Hey guys, I know it's been a while, but I want to jump back to the basics. I feel like I touched on the basic stuff a little bit, but not too terribly much. So let's just go all the way back to it. This video probably won't be very long, um, but I think it'll be good. So let's do it. So I'm already in a new part. But in case you don't know how to do that, you would hit new. It'll probably look like this screen at first. If you are a Mine student, you will go to Advanced, and then under Templates, you will select your ANSI with just this yellow block. You don't want the one with the blue block because that is an assembly. We don't want an assembly, we just want a part. So we'll go ahead and click OK. Things will move slow, but then we'll eventually get to this screen. So this area over here, this is your feature tree. This is where your planes can be found. This is where your origin can be found. This is also where when you do extrusions or cuts and sketches, that's where everything is going to be listed. This is your workspace. I also kind of call it white space. Like if you're selected on too many things, I might say, oh, click in the white space. And so just click somewhere over here. And then you have your various tabs. For basic stuff, we're just going to look, I have no idea what's going on down here. For basic stuff, we're just going to look at our sketch tab and our features tab. So what I like to do when I start any part, I'm not going to be going off of any drawing today. It's just going to be whatever comes to my brain. So I like to select whatever plane I think will be best to start with. So I'm going to go ahead and select my top plane. You'll see that it's now highlighted in blue in my workspace. I can do that with the other ones as well. Same with the origin. But I'm going to select top plane. Then in my sketch tab, I'm going to come up and hit sketch. So you'll notice that sketch 1 appeared. You'll notice that I am now looking directly at my top plane instead of that isometric view that we had a few seconds ago. What else? And you'll see that up here, it says exit sketch. I don't know what's going on. You'll see it says exit sketch. And so that's when you have these little symbols over here. So that's an indicator that you are currently in a sketch. When you are in a sketch, you have access to all of these beautiful tools. So let's go ahead and we're going to grab our line. And this is a newer version of SolidWorks. So if you hover over things, specifically tools, it tells you what's going on. It shows you how to do things, which is kind of nice. So if you're ever like, wait, how do I do this? I don't, however, like that it says click to place, drag and release. I disagree with that a lot. I think click and click is much better than click drag. For example, if I click and click, I know exactly where this is going to start and end. If I click and drag, sometimes I might accidentally click twice or release and click again, and then you'll end up with something like this. You might not, that's just a me thing, honestly. But yeah, I much prefer click rather than click drag. Okay, so let's just make a weird funky shape, shall we? I actually think this is in fact a drawing that we go over, but it's okay. So I have some lines here. One thing I will point out is if you make one line too short, let's say I want this line to actually be way down here, don't just add another straight line. That's not a very good practice, because if I dimension from here to here, then it still sees this point as, it still sees them as two separate lines. So it'll still say that it is underdefined. I'm gonna go ahead and delete these lines. So I'm still using my lovely line tool here. So now let's go up. And also another thing to notice, these little dashed blue lines show up as I'm drawing, like indicating, oh, you're collinear with this line. And then also these little yellow boxes pop up. It's like, oh, hey, you are a horizontal line or a vertical line, which is pretty cool. So last cool little trick here. Let's say I want an arc to connect these 2 points. Instead of coming up to this arc tool, if I just go hover over the last point I selected and move away, I don't click, I just hover, it's now an arc that will be tangent, which is this little symbol here, tangent to this line. And then just based on the way that I drew this, this was also tangent, but let's say it was not. So tangent is when you have these nice smooth curves. So see how this is a nice smooth connection. And then this one is like, oh, well, that's an arc to a line. It's much easier to tell where one stops and one begins. So let's say I need to make these tangents. So I can click, hold Control, click my line. Did I click the line? Okay, I did. It was just very slow. And then add relations, I'll hit tangent. Another way to add relations is under this display delete relations button. I can hit the down arrow, add relations, and then I can select whatever I want to select. So I'm going to select this horizontal line and this horizontal line. One thing to be aware of when you are selecting lines to add relations, you'll see these little yellow blocks pop up in the middle. That's the midpoint of this line. We don't want to select the midpoint. We want the entire line itself. And I want these to be in a nice straight line. I want them to be at the same height. So I can make them collinear. So now you'll see we have this little gray dashed line. It's like, okay, this is basically one line with a cut in between. And I'm going to do the same thing to this one down here. Nice and collinear. And now we need to add some dimensions. Smart dimension is your friend. Do not hit down arrow and select other things. You don't need to. So just hit smart dimension. It will turn gray. You now have the little dimension thing by your mouse. So there's a lot of ways to dimension things. So I can either select the whole line. And so let's make this 5 inches. One cool thing about SolidWorks, it adjusts based on the first dimension you put in. So notice how it was almost 8 inches when I first clicked on it, but then I put 5 and nothing jostled around. It just stayed how it needed to be. Another way you can dimension things is by clicking 2 endpoints. And let's make this 1.5 inches. Okay. And then I want from here to here. Let's make this 6 inches. So you'll notice that lines start to turn black. So that means that those lines are fully defined. As for my blue lines and blue endpoints, I can still drag them around. They are not fully defined. This one, it can still move up and down. It can move side to side. So there's a couple things we can do. So if I want these to be the same, I can add more relations. Relations are your friend. They make life easier. Instead of adding another 1.5 dimension here, I can just set these lines as equal to each other. And I can set these lines as equal. And I can set these lines as equal. There's a lot of options There's a lot of ways you could have done that. So I'm going to add a dimension here. And we're going to tell this one to also be 1.5. So you'll notice I have more black lines. If you're ever unsure as to what is underdefined, click an endpoint, see how it moves. Or click a line, see how it moves. If the line isn't moving, then try an endpoint and vice versa. So it can still move side to side. So I need to define this or this. And if you're not fully understanding why that is totally okay. I completely understand. Let's go ahead and make this 2 inches. Now you'll see that I have all black lines. And then in my status bar, which is our bottom bar here, it says fully defined. Now, if I want to have a hole in the middle of this, I can hit my circle tool. And with circles, it's your basic circle. You first choose the center point and then how big. So for my center point, I want it to be the same center point as this arc. So I'll click there and then just move out some distance. With SolidWorks, when you're drawing things, you'll see this parameters box. Don't type in your dimensions in this parameters box, because you will still, even if I type 2 here, I can still come in and move this, and it is now no longer 2. To really fully define your sketch, you have to use Smart Dimension and dimension that way. So I'm going to make this a 2-inch diameter circle. So now I have a fully defined sketch. So once you have a fully defined sketch, I should have said this earlier, make sure you start at your origin. SolidWorks defines everything around the origin. So if I were to draw this just over here somewhere, even if I had all of these dimensions, it would still be underdefined because it is not connected or defined to the origin in some way. So last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go features, extruded boss base, and you'll see SolidWorks like, oh, you want to make this 3D. It's like, wow, yeah, I do, good work. And we'll say 3 inches. That feels really large, oh well. And this is just applied extrusion, so you're just telling it go 3 inches that way. If this isn't a very good example, but if you wanted it to go in the opposite direction, you can hit this little arrow. Now it's going to extrude down instead of up. So you can toggle that however you so please. Oh dear. There's a lot of other options, but we won't get into those. So then you just hit your green check, and now you have a 3D shape from your 2D sketch. I think that's all I really want to go over today. Just your very, very basic things. Yeah, I'll see you guys next time.